This week's 1044 is brought to you by Chevron Delo 600 ADF Ultra Low Ash Diesel Engine Oil. It's time to kick some ash. You can't judge a book by its cover, or in this case, a diesel engine oil by its container. It's what's on the inside that counts. Hey everybody, and welcome to the 1044, a weekly webisode from the editors here at CCJ. I'm Jason Cannon, and my co-host on the other side is Matt Cole. Aside from diesel fuel, engine oil might be the most critical fluid in a truck because it influences two of the top three equipment-related costs for the fleet: fuel and maintenance. And with various weights, blends, and formulations available, proper selection is a key enabler of driving down cost of ownership.
Viscosity aside, fleets have three options of oil type: conventional, synthetic, and semi-synthetic or synthetic blend. Each have their own use case and benefits, but with factors like duty cycle and engine operating temperature as considerations, picking the right type for your application isn't as simple as it sounds.
About 25% of an engine oil is its additive package, which is used to improve performance and protect the oil against breakdown. The other 75% is the base oil, and there's really just two main classifications of base oil: conventional and synthetic. Thus concludes the extent of my expertise in the field of oil formulation. So Chevron's Senior Staff Engineer Sean Whitaker joins us now to bring us the rest of the science.
So I'm going to start by talking about conventional base oils. They're highly abundant, they're very cost effective, and in many cases they're very high performing these days. They're largely derived from crude oil, like a lot of petroleum products. And so probably the easiest way to think about it, if you had a toy when you were a kid, or maybe in a science class, had one of these things, the jar of marbles, and these different stacks or trays in the jar, and it had different holes with different sizes, and you shake the thing up, and the marbles kind of distribute within the container based upon how big they are. And that's a large extent why how a refinery operates. We take crude oil out of the ground, which is a mixture of thousands of different components of all shapes and sizes, and we try to separate them into fractions, which allow us to turn them into finished products. So the very lightest of those we turn into things like gasoline, jet fuel, diesel fuel, and then a bit heavier fraction of that crude oil is something that we can turn into a lubricant base oil. So we take that fraction and do a little bit of further processing to strip out some things that we don't want in there, and maybe to chemically tailor it a bit to be fit for purpose. But that's to a large extent what a conventional base oil is. Synthetics are a little bit different. Instead of starting with a big mixture, we start with usually smaller molecules, things that then we synthesize, and therefore synthetic base oils. And that's sort of the way we make them into very specific molecules that are fit for purpose in kind of a lubricating oil. And it's really that defines whether you're talking about a conventional or a synthetic.
Most fluids get thinner as they get hotter, but one of the advantages to synthetic oils versus a conventional is how it responds to temperature, at both operating temperature and while cold cranking. And synthetics can be very stable. And
so synthetic base oils, by definition, have very good viscosity index, which means that they don't have that very drastic response to temperature. So the types of things where a synthetic base oil or synthetic lubricant is particularly advantageous is when we're developing products that are at lighter viscosity grades typically, or that have a very big difference in their low and high temperature viscosity expectations. So things like 5W40s, 5W30 engine oils that have that good low temperature performance, but then have very robust properties when they're at operating temperature. Some of the other areas in which synthetic base oils stand out is that they have very good volatility characteristics, and that's important in today's engines that run hot. You don't, and oftentimes with today's oil change intervals, which are extended, more greatly than they were maybe 15 or 20 years ago, we need that oil to stay in the engine for longer periods of time, exposed to that elevated heat, and a lower volatility oil is not going to boil off under those conditions. So synthetic base oils provide some advantages in those kinds of situations as well.
In many cases, synthetic oils may be a better solution than conventional, but there's no way around it. They cost more. So how does a fleet justify the added expense when the whole point of switching oils was to lower costs? Before Sean gives us the answer, here's a message from 1044 sponsor, Chevron Lubricants. Did you know that 90% of the ash and soot trapped inside your DPF right now is caused by your engine oil? It's not like you can go without engine oil, so there's nothing you can do about it, right? Wrong. Chevron spent a decade developing a no-compromise formulation when it comes to minimizing ash output and maximizing engine protection. Delo 600 ADF with OmniMax technology is an ultra-low ash diesel engine oil that is specifically designed to combat DPF ash clogging by cutting sulfate ash by 60% and extending DPF service life by 2.5 times. Delo 600 ADF also enables extended drain intervals thanks to an advanced antioxidant technology that prevents oil breakdown even at the high temperatures found in modern diesel engines. And by slashing the number of regens, Delo 600 ADF with OmniMax technology comes with a 3% fuel efficiency increase throughout the DPF's lifetime. If you're keeping score at home, that's decreased downtime, extended maintenance intervals, and improved fuel economy. That's real money in your pocket and time saved. Before you had to choose between protecting your engine or your after-treatment system, but now you don't. Delo 600 ADF with OmniMax technology. It's time to kick some ash.
One of the things that we've been able to do with higher quality base oils is develop products that are lower viscosity than we've historically used in diesel engines. So it's become very popular to use 10W30s and even 5W30s. We've introduced even a new class of products, the API FA4 products, which have even lower viscometrics than historical, and those offer fuel economy advantage, right? And so in some cases that can be in the range of 2 to 3% of fuel economy improvement just from changing to a lower viscosity lubricant. With the price of fuels and the amount of fuel that's burned in a trucking fleet, those benefits oftentimes outweigh the incremental cost of the lubricant itself. There may be opportunities to push out to longer drain intervals when using higher quality synthetic base oils and synthetic engine oils. That again can offset some of that cost increase.
Fleets reluctant to jump into a synthetic formulation with both feet do have an alternative other than sticking to conventional, synthetic blends. In a blend formulation, some of that 75% base oil Jason referenced earlier is synthetic and some of it is conventional. The formulation also blends a couple key considerations on the fleet side, cost and performance.
Those types of products have become very popular these days because they offer sort of a mid place in terms of the initial cost of the fluid, but it provides some of the performance advantages that you get from synthetics. So many of today's SAE 10W30 motor oils that provide fuel economy benefit, that are very high performing, are synthetic blends. And it's become probably the number one choice in large fleets who are looking for that fuel economy advantage and really that combination of price and performance. It's also, I think, a very key consideration for fleets that operate in a variety of operating climates. So we're heading into the fall, and soon enough we'll be in the winter months, and you need to be kind of prepared for that first cold start of the season. Maybe you left the Carolinas and now you're crossing the Rockies, and even here in October they'll be getting some cold days there, and starting up that engine in the morning. I think you'll find some advantages having a lower viscosity product that provides that robustness at the cold start condition.
In 2016, two new improved performance categories were introduced industry-wide, CK4 and FA4. If you've had an engine oil change in the last 5 years, it's almost certain that you're now using one of these two formulations, most likely a CK4. The improved base oil properties of these Generation Now engine oils gives lubrication savants like Sean room to get creative with the additive packages to deliver other benefits, but especially so with synthetics.
We've done other things with synthetic base oils. We've recently launched kind of a standout product called Delo 680F, which has ultra low ash technology, but the base oil fraction of that was also a very key portion of the development of that fluid, because these provide very low volatility, very good robustness to elevated temperature, but then have lower ash content, which is way more compatible with the aftertreatment system than other conventional fluids. And that provides advantages on top of some of the things we talked about earlier, like the fuel economy benefits, but it reduces the maintenance needs of the DPF and the aftertreatment system, and then provides some other advantages like fuel economy retention, which is clearly differentiated compared to other products in the market.
Lower ash producing content in the oil means less ash in the DPF, and that's good for fuel economy and uptime. But there are other maintenance positive considerations to synthetic oils, even if it's just pushing out how many miles you drive before you drain it, or if you can eliminate having to top it off.
Depending on the OEM, there may even be tiered classifications in which products that are more typically utilize synthetic base oils qualify for a longer oil change interval. Or it may be as you kind of partner with your OEM and your oil provider, that there may be oil drain interval extension that may be an opportunity for you, and that's oftentimes facilitated by the use of higher quality synthetic base oils. There are other factors at play though. Top up oil, right? If you're using a lower volatility oil, you're generally going to have a lower oil consumption. And we know most of our customers do not want to have to top up between oil changes, and having that low volatility oil that's often facilitated through the use of synthetic base oils provides that advantage of not having to do top ups between oil changes. And then, in a much more significant fashion, we've developed products that have lower sulfated ash content. And as today's engines, whether you're in on highway or off highway, a large majority of them now utilize exhaust after treatment, and consumed lube oil does end up in the after treatment system and requires periodic maintenance. And most notably, the diesel particulate filter can fill up with the metallic ash that's derived from that consumed lube oil. And so having a product that's been kind of redeveloped and balanced to use these synthetic base oils in combination with an ultra low ash additive package is proven to provide very significant benefits in terms of the overall maintenance costs within a fleet, who no longer have to worry about maintaining that DPF or doing the exchange or the blowout of the ash periodically, but it also provides a fuel economy retention advantage over time, because you're keeping that system clean and keeping the back pressure of the exhaust low, much like when it came off the assembly line. And we've found that translates into maybe a 2 or 3% fuel economy advantage over time.
That's it for this week's 1044. You can read more on ccjdigital.com, and as always, you can find the 1044 each week on CCJ's YouTube channel. And if you've got questions, comments, criticisms, or feedback, please hit us up at 1044trucking@gmail.com or give us a call, 404-491-1380. And until next week, everybody stay safe.